Welcome to Brains Gone Bold. This is the show where we talk about whatever's on our mind. We take a lot of detours and we go on lots of adventures. We're happy to have you here with us. Today we have a very special episode and our first ever guest. We are going to be doing a 2-part episode today, and so be sure to follow along and come back and join us next time as well. Today joining us on the show is Cathy, also known by Jeanine as Mom. And welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you. This is an honor.
We're so happy to have you here with us. Yes, very, very excited. I have had the honor.
I don't know how you'll be at the end of the show, but right now it's good.
We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, right.
We never know how it's going to go.
That's
true.
And I have had the honor of getting to know Cathy probably over the past 2 years a bit. I've spent quite a deal of time in the area, in your house, and have grown to love you very much. And so just so happy to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you.
We invited Cathy here today because we decided to talk about some topics that we think you would have a lot to say about, specifically the idea of change. And that's such a big topic. And, you know, we all hear that the only constant in life is change. Yeah. And I know when I hear that, sometimes I want to roll my eyes. On the other side of that, you know, I like to think of myself as someone who embraces change, but in the reality, I don't know if that's true. And it's felt more present for me lately. And I know it has been for both of you as well, for different life changes that have been going on. On my side, some of those changes include, you know, my family decided to sell, I'm going to call it the family homestead, where I grew up. And that included both the house that I grew up in, as well as my grandmother's house, where I spent a lot of time. And so that's been a huge change on my end to kind of process through and figure out how I feel about it. And what that means, you know, for my past and the future and everything. My son is now 16 and officially a licensed driver as of 2 weeks ago. And so with that comes all kinds of changes. Like I now no longer drive him to school in the mornings, and I don't take him and pick him up from work anymore. And you know, these sound like they are normal changes, and they sound to others maybe as insignificant or just a regular part of life, but
not to you.
Yeah, not to me.
Sure.
And there's such a grief that comes with them. You know, it's an ending.
Sure does.
It's an ending of a chapter of your life that was so there and so integral to your life that it's like, how do you deal with these things? You know? And so, you know, in talking with you today, especially, you know, interested in hearing on your side some of the changes that you've dealt with in your life and how you've dealt with them. And, you know, in those changes, those big changes that you've dealt with, have there been some constants that have helped you get through them?
But before you start, I also just want to really appreciate the fact that you're here with us. I know this is not your cup of tea, and I don't want to say that we dragged you here kicking and screaming, but I know you are a reluctant participant. And so for that, we are super grateful, because I really do think you have so much insights to offer. And we just really wanted to have this conversation with you because of your perspective. And to Maria's point, I mean, we all deal with change differently. Right. And so I have a different experience than her from you. And I think those perspectives are what help others see, oh, I'm not alone in this. And so, you know, you're at a different season in your life than I am. I'm in a different season in my life than she is. Right. And so it's helpful to have those perspectives. Yeah. So to Maria's question, you know, like off just the top of your head, when we say change, like what comes to mind for you?
Well, I've seen so many changes because obviously I'm a lot older than you guys, you know, but I think early on changing started when I left home and I got married.
And how old were you?
I was very young. I was 18.
Okay.
And coming from an Italian family who are very close, very religious, and they have their set ways. And I eloped.
Oh.
And that was a biggie for my family.
Yeah. How did they handle that?
Well, my dad did not handle it well. My mom, I have to say, she did it good. She did okay. They were happy for me because I was engaged to my husband at the time. Mm-hmm. And then we broke up and he moved to California. And of course, I went to California just to visit and just happened to run into him.
Tell Maria about the dreams that you were having.
Oh, since I was a young girl, I would have a dream that I was getting married and I would go up to the altar with the priest and they would put my veil back and then I would look and the face would be blank. Never saw the face of the guy I was going to marry.
Okay.
Until later on in life when Peter and I were engaged and then broke up, I had a dream and put my veil back and there was Peter's face.
Oh, wow.
And it was just the strangest thing because I was little when I started having these dreams, because every little girl wants to dream of her wedding.
Right.
And I would dream and it was such a disappointment because I wanted to see, what does this guy look like? I want to know so I could look for him. And never, it was just blank. It was just like a white screen.
Yeah.
And then I saw him, so I knew that we were going to be together,
Yeah.
But that was a big change starting in my life because I was very sheltered. I had a big Italian family.
Yeah.
Everyone was protecting me at all times. Mm-hmm. So this
was the youngest.
Yeah, I was the youngest.
The youngest of how many?
Oh my gosh, we had a big family. I was the youngest of all. My mother had 7 brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And I was the youngest child of all of them.
Okay.
So, I was sheltered.
She only had an older brother and sister.
Right, and sister.
Okay.
But the family, I think I'd mentioned to you that my Aunt Millie lived upstairs.
We had a 3-story, right.
And
We all lived
so
in the
did
same
the other
house.
aunts.
Right.
The same kind of house, just different one, where there's a family and a family. And
but if you went in one house, you thought you were in the same house because the decor, everything was the same.
It even smelled the same.
Yeah, it was always the same.
Yeah.
So that was a big change. That started the changes in my life. But I have to say, all the changes I've had in my life, I've gone through easily. And I don't know why. I think it's just my personality.
Okay.
There's been hurdles, but I've gone through them. Mm-hmm. And I really haven't felt much impact, or maybe I didn't allow myself to feel the impact.
That's a really key point.
Right. I didn't allow myself to feel the impact. But I think that was the start of lots of changes, and then I lived in California. When we got married, I was away from my family. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. And that was a big change to be away from my family. Yeah. And then we came home and we had another wedding, of course. Nothing big, but just a small celebration with my family. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't have had it any other way, and that was nice, And then I moved back to California and lived there until my husband was drafted into the Army. Okay. He joined the Navy. Okay. And I came back to New York.
And then being that he joined the military, did you do a lot of moving around after he joined the military?
Somewhat. When we started in San Diego, and then we moved to New London, Connecticut. He was a submariner. Mm-hmm. So that's where all the subs are located. We lived in Groton, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to New Hampshire. And then he was sent overseas, and I went back home to live. Okay. But we lived in New Hampshire, and that's where Jeanine was born in New Hampshire, and my Lisa Marie was born in New York. When I was in New York visiting my parents, I stayed there until I had Lisa Marie. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there was a lot of moving around. Yeah. I think in my lifetime, people haven't moved as much as I have moved. Yeah. We've moved to different apartments. We were in California. Then he was in the Navy. We bought a mobile home because I didn't want to live in Navy housing. So we bought a mobile home, and I met so many interesting people. Yeah, that was stories there. Oh yeah, right. We have
slides, and some of the slides are just a lot of fun to see. But you think about the fact that she was like between 18 and 25, I would say, when this was happening. Which is just
incredible to think about because as I mentioned,
experienced a lot in that time period.
But think about, so Katie's 18.
Yeah, I know.
Can you imagine Katie flying across the United States, getting married? And like it just
generation completely different.
It's so foreign.
It is. It is different. Yeah.
Well, we were raised to have a family, get married, and have a family, and that was it. That was the mindset. Yeah. I always wanted to, in the beginning, though, I wanted to go to school, and my dad wouldn't allow it. Mm-hmm. I went for maybe 2 weeks. I went to for American Airlines. I wanted to be a stewardess.
Oh, really? Okay.
And my dad didn't want me there because he said I would take me away too much and it's dangerous. So I dropped out because I didn't want to hear him anymore.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
But I wanted to go to college, and of course, years ago they frowned on that. You know, you go to work and you get married and you have kids, and that was the Italian mentality. I don't know about anyone else, but that was my family's mentality.
Yeah.
So, but I was where I wanted to be when I got married.
Okay.
You know, I really did. I was thrilled.
Yeah. And you knew he was the one, right?
And I knew he was the one. And I was just happy with the whole situation where we lived and moving. And, you know, I was never out of New York. You know, so this was a biggie for me. I felt like, oh, wow, look at me. Yeah. You know, I'm 18 years old. I'm living in California. It was a big deal.
It really is.
Some of the pictures that I seen later in life, she's got blonde hair. Another picture, she's got red hair. Like she just was living.
Embracing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and then when we got married, Peter had a roommate. And of course, he didn't expect Peter to be getting married, but we got married. And so the three of us lived together. His name was Tom Soprano. And I'll never forget, he was a hoot, you know, and Peter worked nights and Tom worked days. So I would cook for Tom. And then when Peter came home at night, you know, there was Peter. But we had a lot of fun, the three of us. We really did. He was a good roommate. Yeah. You know, and he ended up going out with my friend who went to California with me. And with hubby living in New York, though, and him in California, it didn't work out. But they stood together for a while. Yeah. You know, so I had hopes for them, but it didn't work out. You know.
Now, were your parents from Italy?
My dad was.
Okay.
My mom was born in America.
Okay.
My dad was born in Sicily. And my dad was in the Italian army.
Okay.
And then he came to the States when he was a young man and stayed. Yeah. You know, met my mom. And they got married, and he stayed. Yeah. You know.
I'm so interested in going back for a second to what you said about the fact that you've had a lot of change, but you think you've gone through it easily, fairly easily, or that you haven't allowed yourself to feel anything negative around it. I don't want to say anything, but, you know, you haven't really settled into the negative feelings that. And do you know why that is? Do you feel like it's because of how you were brought up in terms of, were you brought up in a family that was, you know, buckle up, buttercup? I think you say that sometimes, or someone says that, where you have to kind of just, you know, dry your tears, keep moving forward.
I think it was a combination of all of it. I think it was a self-mechanism for myself. I always felt I didn't want to show people my emotions, you know, because I felt if I did, I would lose control because I'm very emotional.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that.
Okay.
When she's upset, a lot of times she does, and this has, you know, been all of my lifetime that I've seen this, she will say things like, if I start crying, I won't stop. Right. And while I don't believe that that's true, the second part of that was lose control. Right? And so, you know, staying in control of your emotions is a very big deal. And so interestingly, as much as I seem to be very flip and I'll say things, you know, and she's similar to that, there's a lot that's controlled that people don't get to see for me. Yeah. And I would say the same thing for her. Being in control is a very important part of who we are.
Okay. I do know that about you. Yeah. So if I go too far, please cut me off. Of course. But I am very interested. So do you feel like you're that way because you saw that in your mom, or do you feel like you encouraged that in the kids growing up to not show emotion?
I think this is something that's just in you. Yeah. It's part of who you are. And no, because my family cried over everything. They were so emotional. They showed their feelings. I mean, they were very emotional. Okay. And no one showed me or told me I had to be that way. It was just me. I just felt like I needed to be in control of my life and my feelings and how people saw me. You know, I had a cousin who used to say to me, because they called me Chickie, because we had so many Catherines in our family. When we ate together on Sunday, there were 7 of us. Wow. So they called me Chickie. Well, my sister named me Chickie because she said I looked like a chicken when I was born. She did. Yeah. So that name stood. But I had one cousin, my cousin Ann, and she used to say to me, you know, Chick, I wish I had just a little bit of you, because you don't have a nervous bone in your body. But she didn't know what I had inside.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hyperventilate and I held everything inside, which is not a good thing sometimes.
No,
Right.
it's not.
You know,
It's
right.
not. And it's interesting. We're not going to psychoanalyze your mom. That's not why you're here. But it is interesting because you were talking about like going through change, that you go through it easily. That would not be something I would describe you as. I do think like going to California was exciting, and the moves that you made with Dad through the military were all also exciting because it was something good you were looking forward to.
Right.
The flip side of that are those changes that weren't as good. And again, I think you're a trooper. I think that you are so solid and so strong, probably stronger than you give yourself credit for. But I wouldn't say you handle change easily, but I don't know who does. I mean,
And
I think it depends.
It's
it does.
Good
It depends.
point. It's a good point that you're making that I was coming to as well, which is in the changes that you think of that kind of like punctuated your life, did you choose most of those?
That's a
or
great
were they forced
distinction.
upon you? And so, I think for myself, and the other part of that question I was going to ask you is, since you've kind of, struggled inside more than externally.
Privately, yeah.
Yeah, privately. Do you feel like that has at all changed who you are? And I say that from the perspective, and this, I don't mean to get dark here, but, some of the big changes in my life that were forced upon me, as an example, the death of my father. And not to get too deeply into that, but I do feel like that was a change that genuinely changed who I am at a level that I would have never expected. And so I think it's just interesting how we deal with things based upon whether or not we choose them as well.
Yeah. I feel I was very fortunate because I really, growing up, not until my maybe 20s did I have to deal with anything that was uncomfortable. I kind of sailed through my life. I really did. I was very fortunate. We didn't have deaths in our family.
Yeah.
It was a blessing. We didn't have divorce. I was very fortunate.
There's no major illness.
No, there was no major illnesses.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I definitely am. I feel like we were charmed.
Right. Very fortunate.
We were
Because,
talking about that. Yeah.
I didn't know my grandparents. My dad's mom and dad were in Italy. They never came to the States, so I never knew them. So their passing or whatever never affected me. My mom's parents, I was very young, and I don't remember them passing. I was maybe 3 years old. So my aunts and uncles were my grandparents, and I was very fortunate to have them. But I was in my 20s when they started passing. So I didn't have, like you had with your dad passing away at an early age. I didn't have to go through that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually much later in life when my dad passed away. And I think that's what's been interesting to me is, well, we could dive into that so much more, probably for another episode. But yeah, it's interesting I'm curious around, given that you grew up that way without having a lot of, I'm going to call it strife, which is a blessing, as you said. And the fact that you tend to keep your feelings inside more than sharing them externally. Does that impact how you support others who are struggling? So let's take Katie, because I know you're very close with Katie, your granddaughter.
Right.
If she's really upset about something,
then I'm upset.
Okay.
When it comes
so you have
to
empathy.
people, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
With friends, certain things happen to them. I just break down. But when it comes to me and it affects me, I hold myself together. But I'm right there. If someone's going through something, I'm right there.
Yeah.
She's so empathetic, Maria, that she can meet somebody.
Yeah.
So Luis can come in here and say, oh, my son is sick. And, God forbid, but he could say that. And maybe it's like he just has the flu, whatever. And then go back about his business. He's not thinking about it anymore.
And I'll worry about him all day.
We'll be driving home. She's like, I wonder how Luis's son is.
Yeah, I'll worry about him
She
all
just
day.
really will. She'll think about it. And then the next day, until she hears that, he's doing okay. But it's strangers too. Like, oh, I met somebody at the grocery store today.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope she's going to be okay. And it's like, you'll never know.
Right.
You'll never know.
I tend to take on what they're going
She's
through.
so empathetic. Yeah.
I wanted to be a nurse. That's one of the things I wanted to be.
Okay.
But I knew that I couldn't step away from that because I would bring it home with me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, I have a friend who was sick and I was feeling what she was feeling. you know, which is crazy, you know, because I was putting myself in that and I was making myself ill, worried about, you know, what she was feeling.
Yeah.
Not only that, I mean, she also then puts herself in her children and what they're feeling. And I said to her more than once, Mom, you can't put your stuff on them.
Yeah.
You know, because of the experiences that you've had, you can't automatically think that this is what's going to happen because it happened to you. And so, you know, it's hard because she is so caring and empathetic and wants to, you know, express, but yet to her point, some of the stuff, you know, when I hear her say things to her friends that she doesn't say to me because she's trying to protect me. That's where
protect mode comes in.
Protection.
Yeah. And it's so much though, as you're talking, it all comes back to control.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I don't want them to experience that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And oh my goodness, I can relate to
experience.
that. I can relate to that so much as a parent.
I was going to say that. I can think about that with you, with Vincent.
Yeah.
And trying to, I don't want to say control the experience that he has, but there was something, you know, in that. And I don't know if Dad ever said this, but I definitely felt from my dad, more so from my mom, that he wanted us to experience the heartache, but yet in the way that he wanted us to experience it. So it wasn't this free for all, like, you know what, let her fall down.
Yeah.
It was a very controlled fall down.
Yeah.
Where like she would be
want
like
the control.
Bubble wrap around you.
Yes.
And you know, not all parents feel this way. Some parents don't feel it at all. And that amazes me because when I was working and I would talk to these other ladies and they would say, and I say, how could you do that?
Yeah.
You know, and they thought I was the abnormal one, which I probably was because I'm over the edge. I really am. I'm to the extreme.
I think the two of you have some similarities.
We're soulmates.
Right. But
I understand that. I mean, I have done so much of that myself and trying to control my son's experience and making sure he doesn't experience disappointment or heartbreak. Or and he more recently, you know, had his first girlfriend and I immediately went down this whole rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, what if? You know, and how do I help him deal with heartbreak and all of these things that I just want to, again, wrap him in a bubble and make sure he has the best, most beautiful life ever.
And I've said to her as an employer, I need for him to have some heartache. I need for him to experience some trials and tribulation because they come into work and they're not prepared.
I know. They're not prepared for life. That's the reality of it. And I get that. I do get that. I know that I've probably, to an extent, really done him a disservice. I am trying to be more, you know, I don't know what the word is, but I'm trying. Yeah,
that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Yeah, it's not easy, and he's my only one, and it's like
so far.
There's some miracle, which I am not hoping for, by the way.
I am.
Yeah. I would love to have a little Maria.
She's already planning how she's going to take care of your baby.
Yeah.
I can give my baby to you to take care of if you like.
I would love it. I don't know if I can keep up anymore, but I would love it. You know.
So going back to the topic of change, I know we're going different directions here, but I'm curious to know. So you talked a little bit about where you were born and growing up and everything, having kind of a charmed life, but in terms of the world and how things are around you, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen from then to now?
Oh my gosh. Just technology alone. I mean, we lived in I keep saying such a plain world because I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
It was just very simple.
Yes.
The phone rang, you picked it up, you answered it, and you hung up.
Yeah.
You know, and if you wanted to talk to someone, you went to their house.
Yes.
You know, if you were at the table, you spoke. There was no phones. There was nothing. It's just so different now.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many interruptions and such technology has taken over the personal aspect of family life.
Yeah.
It really has. And I see that in my grandchildren. You know, my daughter tries not to let them have the phones at the table, but, you know, they have the phone down here, you know, and they're looking because their mind is elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's not, and I could be talking to my granddaughter. My granddaughter and I are extremely close, but she's not paying attention to what I'm saying because she's looking at her phone in the corner. So that has changed so much, you know, and transportation. And I mean, I've seen so many changes, but we've gone through gradually. We just went with it.
Yes.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
some people can't accept it. I never had a problem with change. In fact, it was just there, and I did it.
Yeah.
You know, and you just moved on.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people don't have a problem with that, and I don't. But so much in the world has changed. It was so much simplified. It was so simple to live then.
I mean, I will tell you, I mean, obviously, I'm of a different generation, but I will tell you, I felt like when I grew up, it was much simpler too. I mean, technology since I grew up has changed so significantly. And I find myself, while of course I've gone with it and I've had to adjust just like we all have, boy, do I yearn for those days.
Yeah. It was just like we had encyclopedias. I bought my kids encyclopedias. If they wanted to know something, they went to this encyclopedia.
My father always said, look it up.
Right, look it up.
Daddy, how do I look it up?
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. But nowadays with the computers, you know, these kids.
But now we look it up on our phones.
Well, now you look it up on your phones. You know,
or, hey, Alexa.
Still,
I do that all the time.
But you're still so involved with that.
Oh,
because
100%.
you're not only looking up that specific thing, you're going on to something else. Before you went to the dictionary, you looked up what you, and that was it, and you closed it, and you moved on. And the book was shut, and you with your family. You don't. They don't do that anymore. You know. So
there's so much attraction in that little box that we use.
Absolutely. Yeah. So those are the big. You know, like I said, I've seen a lot of changes. You know, I'm a lot older than you guys.
Well, when we were kids too, like, you know, in the summer in particular, you would be like, go, get out. And we'd be gone all day. You know, we'd come home for lunch maybe, or we'd go find another house.
There was no checking in with a phone.
Yeah, because there was no phone.
There was no tracking your location.
No, there was nothing.
She had no idea.
No.
I mean, she kind of knew that we were on the block. But that was really about it.
But you didn't have to worry. You knew they were safe and you were comfortable with that.
They were safe.
Well, and I know when I was a kid growing up, you know, we had street lights, and when the street light came on, we went in the house. We knew it was dinner time, and that was it. We didn't have our mothers calling us during the day. Maybe we ran home to go potty or something, you know. But most of the time, we were on the street. But we played, you know, kickball. We played slap ball. I mean, hopscotch. We just filled our days. You know, and we talked to each other. And there was no phone, and we talked to each other, and we laughed and. You know, and things like that. But the kids have missed out on so much with that.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
Oh, my gosh.
I
They
really
have missed
do.
so much.
And not only that, but what I'm noticing too is this constant need to be entertained.
Yeah.
So my son shows that where if there's a period of time where there's not really much going on, maybe his friends are busy, he's gotten tired of scrolling on his phone, and it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes before he's saying, bored. I'm bored.
Yeah, he's bored.
I'm bored.
Right.
And so, you know, I think that is going to show up in ways that we don't yet see in adulthood in terms of.
It's one of my grandsons is that way. You know, you have to keep him constantly entertained. Or he's just bored out of his mind, and then his mind starts wandering, you know.
But I always think about it from a job perspective.
Oh, absolutely. What are they going to do?
Tasks that have to be done. And if you're growing bored that quickly, then what does that mean for future employers? And I don't know what the answer is. I just know that I've started to see that show up in the workplace in very...
They lose their interest.
Just awful ways.
Yeah.
And also some really, really cool ways too. So don't get me wrong. Those kids that embrace technology, when something they think nothing of figuring certain things out. Because truthfully, they want it to work. And so they'll, you know, play with it in a way that maybe, I don't say I'm afraid to, but, you know, I'm a little less comfortable in testing out. Or they are creative in looking through. Yeah, I know you said you wanted it done this way and it's this repetitive task, but if I did it this way, it's more efficient and I could get to this. And so there's something wonderful, but there's also these
they're not afraid to take chances, and we were always so cautious. You know, I wouldn't do anything. I was so cautious, you know, without checking with my mom or dad or somebody. You know, the kids nowadays.
They push the envelope differently.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know. And like I said, I see that in my grandchildren or the kids that I come in contact with, and they're out there. You know, they really are. So it does have its good points, you know, but for the most part, my thing is it's taken away the family aspect. That's the part that concerns me.
Anything that's technology that's taken away?
Yes, with technology, because they're so with this phone all the time. You know, that they're missing the unity of a family, you know, and that's so important.
The presence.
Absolutely.
You know, because you could be together as a family, but the true presence isn't there.
And they're not there.
It's the distraction.
You know, I mean, I remember if we sat at the table, we didn't eat until my dad came home from work.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat at the table and we talked. And you know, even if it was not stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But we talked.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, you get anything okay.
It's like
it.
we don't have anything to say anymore.
No, you don't have anything to say to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sad.
Yeah.
That's really
I
sad.
agree.
I feel blessed that I grew up in the era that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
I really am.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel sorry for the kids. I feel sorry for my grandchildren who have not experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why it's so hard.
That they're missing it though.
Well, they don't, but it's so hard for me with tradition. I hold on to tradition because I want my grandchildren to experience some of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I really do. And that's what tradition is all about.
Well, I think tradition is about keeping something to the same in the midst of everything else that's changing. Right. And so how do we hold on to those things that are so meaningful and not allow those to change because they are important?
You have to keep at it, and you have to keep doing it, and you have to keep pushing it. You know, until they say, well, you know, this is not bad. You know, I can do this. Yeah. And then it becomes part of theirs, you know, and it just trickles down to all the different generations. But if you don't hold on to that, you've just lost it completely.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why to me, tradition is so important because I grew up in such a traditional family, you know, and everything was, you know, we did the same things on the same holidays. And it was just, you know, just like during the week, you know, my aunts would come over on Tuesdays and Thursdays and we'd have coffee together, you know. And I was young, and I look forward to those coffee clutches, you know.
Yeah.
And then next week it was at my other aunt's house because my mother had all the sisters and we were so close. But the kids nowadays, I mean, my children don't know half their cousins. I have a big family. My grandchildren don't know any of the cousins.
Yeah.
And I came from such a big family that I was so proud of.
Right.
And now they're so distant and they hardly see each other, you know, because they all have things going. Well, I realize life gets in the way. I realize that.
We're not
but
co-located or anything.
Right. And location has done that. You know, people before nobody wouldn't think of moving.
Yeah.
You know, we all lived on the same block.
Or in the same house.
Those are the changes, you know, that you've seen.
I remember the first time I went to Singapore for work. AIM Instant Messenger was a thing.
Yes.
And it was available everywhere. Even like in your workplace, you could go, because it was before the security was what it is now. And so I had AIM and I'm in Singapore and I was connected to my cousin Rob, who was in New York. And he pinged me about something and I said, oh, well, I'm in Singapore. Oh, I think it was up late because it's a 12-hour difference. And he was like, what are you doing up so late? And I was like, well, I'm in Singapore. I'm at work. And he was like, does my mom know you're in Singapore? And it was like, oh my God, you don't leave. And
not let the family know.
And not let the family know because it was too far away.
Okay.
And so in our family, before, you know, Lisa, myself and Rob, like first of all, you didn't leave your house until you got married. Like that was the thing. You lived at home and I don't care how old you are, you live at home until you get married. And then the other thing was you also don't move away from us. Like that core unit stays a core unit. And you know, Uncle Sammy was the first one
Uncle Sammy,
to break off and move to North Carolina. So her brother. And then we moved to North Carolina. So it was just my Aunt Nancy's family that was left behind. And it was a big deal.
This is really interesting to me because I'm very curious about when did that change as a society where it became unacceptable to being commonplace and what kind of triggered that?
That's a great question.
Because I will tell you, I have a very, very small family, but there are cousins, aunts, uncles that are in other states that we rarely see. And I wish so badly that we would see them more often. And so I am in one of those families where, you know, it's so small as a result of people being in different locations. And I'm really curious about that. When did we start accepting?
I think it started changing, not just with technology, but travel was a lot easier.
Right. And when you introduce other people into the family.
Right.
You know, when got married, you know, they were from different areas and their family was like, say, in Massachusetts or whatever. So that you would go there for the holidays. You know, I think that's when it, for us anyway, you know, it became, we started branching out. And when you branch out, you know, everybody goes in different directions.
But I think as a society too, not just within our family, it became more, commonplace for cousins to be in different
or
states.
take jobs in different
areas. And I do think it's advancement in some ways.
Yeah.
It's travel industry changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we first moved to North Carolina, my cousin Joe was like, do they even have indoor plumbing? Because it just seemed so like New York was the metropolis.
Yeah.
You didn't leave New York, and then any place outside of New York had to be Hicktown.
Yeah.
That was just it.
Yeah.
And so, of course I was like, of course they do. But my father moved us. My father was like, I want these kids to have something different. Not to say better or whatever, but just different.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Uncle Sammy having moved to North Carolina, it kind of gave us a little bit of a
stepping
safety
stone.
net. Because it wasn't just going into the unknown.
Right.
But that was
cousin Patty.
Cousins with have some family that was there, especially
Made
for
it
mom.
easier.
Yeah.
Because of that, that's a huge change. Leaving everything that you know. I was 11, and as much as I didn't want to leave my friends, it was also really exciting to be able to go do something different. And, we talk about change. You were talking about your family homestead. I have never been attached to houses or location.
We talked about that. Yeah, where you've not had really any emotional attachment to a place that you've lived.
No.
And that's very interesting to me.
But I haven't either.
Really?
Yeah. I have to say the only place I was attached to or had it is the house when we lived in Pittsburgh.
You liked the house.
I liked the house.
Yeah.
I've never really had an attachment to any place. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's a function of having moved so much? I mean, for me, I never moved. I never moved growing up. I was in the same,
it's the only thing you knew.
The same place my entire life growing up.
Yeah.
And I've moved very few times, even as an adult.
Yeah.
And it's always been the same area. I've never moved out of the state, regrettably.
There's still time.
Yeah. Well, my family has always been stationed in one place.
Yeah.
But I have, as I got married and everything, I moved around a lot and we had different apartments and that. And I think that's what happened with me.
Yeah.
But
well, you always had a place that you could consider home, right? Until you didn't. And I'm just of the belief that people are home, not places.
Oh, that's sweet.
Isn't it? But I really mean that. Like, as long as, she's around, she's home. And so it has nothing to do with the physical space I'm in.
Yeah. And I think that's true because I think that's why I keep saying this doesn't feel like home. Because home was where my family was.
Okay.
And that was home.
Yeah.
I haven't felt that way in years. I always keep saying this doesn't feel like home.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is.
It's the people that are missing.
People, other than, being with my Jeanine, but other than that, no place I haven't been attached to either.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fill me with melancholy to say it. Like
I get very melancholy.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not. It's like, I used to live there.
Okay. So you're just cold.
I'm just cold.
She's definitely not emotional.
I am emotional, but not about stuff like that. That does nothing for me.
Yeah.
There's things that I like about, like my last house, great closet space.
And I love the pantry.
Great pantry. But to me, that's right. Like that's next time when I buy my next house, I want to make sure I've got some good, because that really meant a lot to me.
Right. It's the functionality of it.
The other house when we were in Pennsylvania was right by the Ohio River. I loved being near the water.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that, that's cool.
People say, you must have felt so bad to leave it. No. I felt worse about giving up a car than I felt about leaving a house.
I don't feel that way about cars either.
Okay. Jeanine has issues getting attached or not getting attached.
I am very attached to people, but not things.
She's just practical.
Yeah, I know.
I can be really practical.
She's very practical. She really is.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you had a homestead and that
it's just a weird word for you to have used.
No, but
I'm going to keep using it. There's value in that, and I think that's why sometimes change is hard.
Yeah, and I think for me, my grandmother,
she was home.
She was home,
and still is.
Yes, and that's a really good point you're making. Yeah, but I spent a lot of time at her house. Yeah, it was my place, and so
safe place.
Yes, yes. I'm curious to know, so, we also hear the phrase, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, which is annoying to hear sometimes too, but do you feel that way? Do you feel like all of the changes that you've been through
have made you stronger?
Whether or not they are easy or hard, whether or not you've chosen them or they've been forced on you, do you feel like they've made you stronger?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
the one incident, and probably is the only one that really was hard in my life, was my separation
Okay.
from my husband. That made me definitely stronger. Because I was very reliant, and everything was his thoughts. They weren't my thoughts.
Okay.
And I felt like I lost myself somewhere in there. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had to break away to realize how consuming he was of me.
Yeah.
And I definitely had a growth at that point. I really did. I became more independent and more in tune to myself.
You had to learn who you are.
Right. I found out who I was and what I was capable of and what I wasn't capable of. But I still had that control piece that helped me through it. And of course, my kids helped me through it.
Yeah.
But I think that was my growing point for me. And it was a little late in life to grow.
Yeah.
But
how
because,
old
I was
were
18,
you?
65.
Wow. So you were married
46
to him
years.
for 46 years before the separation.
Right.
And
Well,
then
and
you
not
had
only
to,
that, Maria, they started dating at 11.
Yeah. I was in grade school when I met Peter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so
I wasn't allowed to be dating. We were dating.
Knew life without
they
him.
kept company.
Right. We kept
And so
company.
he was always part of her life. And then to get engaged at 18, have that momentary breakup, and then follow him to California and subsequently marry. You think about from 11 to 65, this person, whether you were
Instead of living
married
at
or
home,
not.
right.
So he became
My father.
her, he was her new center of her.
Right.
And so at 65 go,
What do I do now?
what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, I am in awe of who she became.
Yeah.
And is still becoming.
Yeah, because I thought for sure this is it. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it through.
She didn't
Not
know
make
what
it through
to
the separation.
Not make it through my life.
Okay.
Because I was so distraught. I mean, I didn't know what to do, who to go, where
My
to go.
dad was
And why
a
would you?
force.
Yeah.
He was a force.
Yeah, definitely.
And mom and us to some extent. My sister probably less because she left and left real early. But my father controlled everything around him and ran the show. And in some respects, I mean, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here. You not that you lived in fear of him, but you were fearful sometimes of making the wrong decision or doing the wrong thing. So it was easier to kind of let him.
Yeah, I wasn't fearful of him because he wasn't
I know he
violent
would
at
never
all.
hurt you. I'm just saying.
I was in fear of he wouldn't stay. He would
Of
leave.
losing him.
If I didn't do what he wanted,
Yeah.
because he would say once in a while, well, I'm out of here. That was his favorite expression. I'm out of here. So
Okay.
that was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a difficult time. But I grew a lot. Like I said, I think it's a terrible thing because I loved him dearly and I still do. But I think the separation was the best thing for me because he just controlled my mind and my thoughts and my actions. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. So that was really the best thing for me in growth.
Yeah. I have so many questions about this. Do you
I have so many answers.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Do you feel at all like because you felt like you had no control in your marriage, you didn't have any control growing up because you had parents basically telling you what to do and governing your actions and that kind of thing.
Is that why I'm a control freak?
Is that why you controlled your emotions? Learn to control how you respond emotionally to things and why you feel the need to control so many things now.
I think that contributed to it, made it even more stronger.
Yeah.
But I think I've always been a control person since I was young.
Okay.
I just felt like I had to have control of this situation to make me feel safe.
Yeah. So what was it like to be that kind of person in an environment where you didn't have any control?
It was scary because, and I had anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety. I had anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
And I went for counseling, and the kids were very little then, and I used to go for counseling. And she as much as said, you need to leave for your husband. I shouldn't say that. She insinuated, and I turned around and I said, so are you telling me that I need to leave my husband? She says, that's your decision. But that's what it's showing me, that you are not living. Is what she told me. And so that got me thinking. And I thought about it for a long time. And certain things would come up. I think, Catherine, grow a pair of balls. Come on now. Be a big girl.
Yeah.
But it made it worse.
Yeah.
As far as I needed to control things. Because I couldn't control my life because he was controlling it.
Yeah. How different are you now than you were then? In what ways have you grown and how are you a different person?
I'm a lot more independent, and I feel a lot stronger, and I'm not afraid to go from point A to point B where, before I was stood in A. I never got to B.
Yeah.
So now,
not stuck.
I'm not stuck, and I still have some fears because, I'm whacked. But
we all have fears.
Not like I did, and I can make my own decisions, and just like I don't want my kids making decisions for me. And I'm resentful if anybody's trying to make a decision for me. Yeah. Because I don't want you to make, I mean, I may be older, but I still have my mind. Yeah. And I can make my own decisions and I don't need you. Yeah. You worry about me? Great. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. But don't try to take my life over and do it for me.
Yeah. Like, you had enough of that.
I had enough. I can do it myself. Yeah. And I'll let you know, like with driving, I told Jeanine, when I know I can't drive anymore, I'll be the first one to tell you I can't drive anymore. Yeah. But don't tell me I shouldn't be driving or anything like that related to that. Right. But other than that,
as you're talking, an interesting thought's coming to my head, which is the difference between the need to control or the need for freedom. So for me, having been in plenty of environments where very similar to what you're talking about in different ways, was in environments where others were controlling my decisions, and knowing how that feels, and internally just feeling a need for freedom and the freedom to make my own decisions and the freedom to be independent and do whatever the hell I want to do. I think
they go hand in hand.
Yeah. I never kind of drew that connection before.
Well, and I would say for you, Maria, how does it play out? I see you still wanting that freedom and still wanting to be a decision maker. And in many ways, you've orchestrated your life so that you are. So how does that play out for you and what you've just talked to Mom about?
Oh, boy, this is a big one. This is a big question. Yeah. I will tell you for me, I think there's an element of having been in controlling environments before in different ways. You learn to kind of put those bars around yourself. And so even if I'm not in an environment where others are controlling or telling me what to do in any way, I definitely still have those you can't walls put up or bars put up. And I have to constantly work at, no, Maria, you have the choice in this, or reminding myself of who I am and trying to continuously learn who I am. I think that's going to be an ongoing process for me. And so it shows up in a lot of ways. Yeah. And it even shows up in ways that I would say are detrimental, meaning if I feel like I don't have a choice in something, whether that's someone else telling me I don't have a choice or circumstantial choices. If I feel like I have to take a certain path, it feels really bad to me. Really, really bad. Like I can't choose a different path. Yeah. And it does something to me that I don't like. Yeah. So for me, freedom is huge. Freedom to choose whatever I want to go wherever I want to, explore what I want to. Yeah.
I mean, but it's also, as Mom is talking about, like that control was protective. That control, that freedom was protective. Because you don't want to go back to a place where you gave up yourself or you gave up your freedom and you were under somebody else's thumb. That's a once you've gotten it, to go back to that, like who wants that? So yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a big one, I should say.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. 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 It's tough because we all have things that we have to do. Yeah. you know, that we don't have choices in. But nonetheless, here we are.
Nonetheless.
Yeah.
So do you believe in second chances? And I don't want either of you to answer this because I do want to continue the conversation. And so we talked to everybody about this being a 2-part.
Yeah.
And so the first, talking about change and how it impacts us and for you, you've grown into this new person. You have embraced a different way of living that has allowed you this freedom. So this is kind of where we're going to wrap up and ask you to join us next time.
Yes.
For that discussion. And so thank you both for being so open, honest, vulnerable.
I'll probably regret this tomorrow.
Sharing. Well, we've got you tied to the chair, so stay right there. And sharing with us so freely. It is really, it means a lot.
You're on the hot seat next, Jeanine.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. Be sure to tune back in for part 2, where we talk about second chances and we learn more about specifically Cathy and her her experiences in life and thoughts on second chances. So we're happy to have you tune back in. Until next time, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.